Perfect. Well, hello everybody. I'm Kelly Whitehair. I'm a registered dietitian for Housing and Dining Services, and I also do some teaching in the Department of Food, Nutrition, Dietetics, and Health. And as I'm sure you all know, some topics just do not lend themselves to a case study or mock situation. Sometimes you need those students in some sort of a laboratory setting where they can roll their sleeves up and get their hands dirty a little bit. In my case, that's a food production management class. So for the on-campus version, it's no big deal. They go over to Kramer Dining Center, they spend 3 to 4 hours there a week, they learn about food, they taste it, they interact with customers, they manage staff, it's real life. But when it comes to my online version of that, how do I give them that same opportunity? So I'm just gonna go through a few tips of how we have learned to make this better and better, considering we've been teaching this class online for at least 15 years now, I believe. It was one of the first online classes. So I was not the originator of the course, but I have been one that's been allowed to kind of play with it recently and figure out how we can make it a little bit better. So for starters, because it's an online class, and it is the same class that we teach on campus, we already have objectives there. We don't have to worry about anything new. We have some assignments. We just have to figure out how do we make them work for those distance students that are not going to be in a controlled climate. Most of those assignments relate back to what it is that they do in that physical setting of the lab. As for the lab, it's something I require them to have approved by me prior to the start of the semester. So before day one, I've had to approve their site. Well, how do I make that happen? I have to be very specific on what my requirements for that lab site are. I have to spell it out for them, literally word for word. And I'll show you some of the tools I provide them to give them that information. First of all, I create a few different materials. I do some handouts. I'm going to show you a short video, a clip of a video here, just the audio portion. I basically give them a how-to tutorial of how do you approach strangers and ask for them to sponsor you. What is it that I need that lab facility to have? How many employees should they have? What kind of equipment? So that I know you're getting a good experience. It's not just your grandma's kitchen. It's actually a kitchen where you can go in and learn the higher level quantity foods management tasks. So I'll share just a little bit of the audio here from the video.
So in order for you to begin our class, first of all, we need you to find a lab site. And you have to have that lab site found before the first day of class. So specifically what this means is that you have to have a lab facility that has been approved by me, Dr. Whitehair, as being suitable for the lab prior to beginning the class. So start this process early, please. It often takes you contacting multiple sites and multiple facilities before you find one that's willing to work with you and one that is a good fit for you. So be open and honest with them about what you need and what is expected. Show them the lab sponsors packet that's available to you. It's going to give them an idea of some basic information about the class. And make certain that you tell them and that they know this is a learning experience for you and not a working position. This isn't an internship. This is a class in which you are trying to gain experience.
I share information like that with them, and I do it a couple of ways. First of all, I take advantage of my advisors. My advisors are that connection between me and the students. So they can get the word out at the time that they are enrolling in this class that, hey, guess what? You have to have a lab site before it starts. They also put comments on our course sequencing sheets, so the students know when they're looking at that, this has a prereq, because these aren't prereqs that can be tracked in cases. There isn't a thing that says, oh, I found a lab site, check in cases. It's stuff that has to go through me. I also take advantage of the Global Campus site to share information. So on the site, we have a dietetics page, and my class has 2 documents out here. I provide a lab sponsors packet that basically outlines the semester. So the reason I decided to do this a couple semesters ago is the students can print this packet out and have it with them when they cold call or walk into that operation, and they can say, hey, look, I know what's going to happen this semester. Here's what it is. That packet provides my expectations for that lab sponsor. It also provides expectations for the student. So it's information that makes the student not just look like, I don't know what I'm going to do, I need a kitchen. It gives them just a little bit more information to make them appear better to those that they're reaching out to. I also make sure that I let the student do the footwork. So they're the ones that have to reach out to those people. They're the ones that have to be professional and say, hey, I will be here every week for my lab. This is how we'll communicate. This is what I need to do, and this is what I need from you. I also developed a student lab sponsor agreement. Because I'm not specifically placing them in these operations and I'm not even interacting with the sponsor, there's definitely not an affiliation agreement of any sort with K-State. So I figured there needs to be some sort of agreement that holds that student responsible to that site because they are representing K-State while they're there. So I made a simple document. And basically the way I've decided to gather all this information just this semester is I've started using Qualtrics. because they have to tell me how many employees, how many meals, what type of equipment do they have, versus them having to have a Canvas site set up ahead of time, like a semester ahead, or having to email me a ton of attachments. I now use Qualtrics. They go in and answer the questions. They check mark the equipment. It all comes to me in a nice, pretty spreadsheet that way. So I can flip through it and say, check, check, check. Yep, you're approved for this lab, or no, I keep looking. And then once I've approved that site, I reach out to the student and they have to complete the lab sponsor agreement. So it's basically just that lab sponsor saying, yes, they showed me this packet. I'm willing to sponsor them for this many hours a week. And it's also the student saying, I realize I'm representing K-State and this is my agreement with this lab, not the university's. And they also submit that through an attachment portal in Qualtrics for me. So again, I'm cutting back on all my emails this semester, which was great. One last thing is also because these students are experiencing things throughout the whole world, every single one of them has a different lab site. I have to be really flexible. So I may have assignments that I use that are the same from one student to the next, but the way I approach my feedback and my grading has to vary. One might be in a food truck in Tokyo, while one's doing K through 12 in Olathe. So the assignment is the same and the way I assess them is the same, but I have to realize they're gonna have different experiences. So I have to be really flexible. A rubric and a key for grading doesn't always work in this situation. I also want to make sure they can share all of these experiences because again, like I said, they're all over the world. So we also do a required Zoom session every single week, every single Thursday of the semester. They have to attend a Zoom session. I have one on Thursday mornings and one on Thursday nights, and they can choose which one to attend. And I do have an option for those who can't attend. They can watch a video and provide a summary and all of that. Honestly, about 99% of the time, every single student attends. I very rarely have someone who can't. And it's amazing because they can share what they're experiencing in these different operations. They're all learning the same theories and the same concepts, but it's from a very different perspective. Some are long-term care, some are healthcare, some are K through 12, some's a food truck. So it just lets them see how you can approach it from different perspectives. And honestly, this distance-based course has been way more of a learning experience for me than I thought it would be, as well as my students. I mean, we're learning about management concepts, cultural dining, various ways that nutritional standards are presenting throughout the entire world, and we're bringing it all to one classroom. So this is one of those classes, I think the distance students get a better perspective than the on-campus ones, because on campus, they see Kramer dining. They hear what we do. The ones in the distance class are getting to see people from all over the world, and it's been amazing. I will admit that it stresses the students out when those advisors tell them, don't forget, you have to find a lab facility. And some of them have never been in a kitchen. Some of them have just moved. Their husband's in the military and they have to find someplace in a brand new city. I do have some help I provide to them, but honestly, in the end, I always get really good feedback. I always ask, what portions of the class have the biggest impact? And every single semester, they say it's the lab facility. So year in and year out, we always evaluate, should we get rid of this requirement in this class? Should we change it to case studies? And honestly, we're gonna stick our ground and say, no, we need this lab site requirement in our class, and it works for our students. Thank you.